All right, I'll go first. My name's Christy Martin. Um, I handle part of the MLS with Ed and then also some of the accounting functions. Um, we have been taking over MLS for about the last year. You are probably used to seeing Debbie Stewart. She was with GLAR for 20 years and she just recently retired. So now you get us to help you through the process, and we wanted to introduce ourselves in case you were unaware that Debbie had retired and kind of give you a face to the email. Go ahead, Ed.
All right. So my name is Edward Knight. I just started with GLAR here back in December. Yeah, back in December. Um, and some of you I've gotten to meet already. Others I have not, or we have just corresponded via email. So like Christy said, we're here to help any way that we can. We try to get out as much information as we can with the system. Um, and today is one of those things. So we have a lot of information that we're going to try to go over today. If by chance you hear something and your question does not necessarily or does not get answered today, we will be putting out an email or a Facebook post or something of that nature to try to get those questions answered. So if they don't get answered today, please know that we will be getting something out.
All right, first and foremost, I want to kind of go over a little bit about what the MLS is for. The MLS is not a marketing tool. It is for the cooperation and compensation with other agents. There is information that you take, data that you take from MLS to do marketing, but it is not solely the purpose of doing marketing. That's why we have rules, we have regulations, we have timelines, because it is to cooperate with other agents.
Right, and so to go along with that, it is very important that we have clear and accurate data. I know that sometimes when we send the emails out, we get a lot of response back um, that we're not trying to send these out to jam anybody up. We're not trying to make it to where you can't do your job. The whole point of us trying to have this clear data is not only for market analysis, but we have a lot of people that use this information. Appraisers use the information. Other agents are going to use this information. So it is very important that the data that we have going into the MLS is clean and as accurate as possible. Right. So this includes photos and other information, square footages, things like that. Now, we do have marketing tools that pull from this database. So things like Zillow, things like your IDX feeds that go out to your own websites. All of this pulls that data from the MLS system, and that is your main marketing tool. Now, Flex does have tools that you can use, to send out. Like, we're going to get into coming soon later. Coming soon doesn't feed out to IDX feeds. So, and I'll show you later how to do a syndication that includes coming soons to your clients. But so there are functions of the MLS system that allow you to market to your clients, but it is not a marketing tool in itself.
And one of the common questions we get is about photographs. And I can tell you that thankfully, Flex is coming out with a new tool that we can use to where, since we are not allowed to delete photos, that's part of the MLS rules. That's something we agree to when we put a listing on the MLS. They are going to have a private section so that we cannot delete those photos, but mark them as private so that only the broker, I believe, and then the MLS staff can see those. So they still are available. It won't necessarily be out for everyone to see, but we still have accurate data. The other thing with that goes, and I'm going to share my screen here real quick. and show you, hold on one second. Amanda, will you enable screen share, please? There we go. Okay, let's go here. So here we are on a listing. And one of the things that we get a lot of question about is the syndication to other sites. So if you're in your listing, you can go here, the broker distribution. And if you unclick these, if that's what your client doesn't want those sent out, it will not be sent to those websites. It's just that easy. And it's part of your, when you put a listing in or when you're changing a listing, it's part of your options here.
Okay, so now that we've gone over that, one of the common errors and things that we see is the contract date versus the sign date. So I'm gonna do a little share myself. I got a lot of windows open, so let's see which. There we go. Okay, so when you are inputting, or I'm sorry, the tools keep getting in the way. Hang on. So on your listing contract, you have a contract date. That is the date that you will start getting paid. So let's say that for whatever reason, the person doesn't want to go coming soon. The seller does not want to start until next Monday, right? So that's the date that you put in here. That is the date that you're going to start actively marketing the property and selling this property, whether it be coming soon or an active listing. That's the contract date. The sign date is the date that this contract is signed. Okay. Yeah, and that, sorry, kind of lost my place there. But hopefully that clears up any of that. Christy?
And then the other thing is if the contract date and the sign date do not match, and it's something that, let's say you have the sign date is a text and then you're going to write in the contract date, the best thing to do is just have the sellers initial that also, so that we know they're aware of that change. It's not an issue of whether or not it was doctored or whited out and then reapplied, just to give us verification so you're not getting any questions about it, because those dates can be different. And that just helps us understand where the process is, especially during the COVID situation. We understand that some sellers are not necessarily technologically advanced, and it may take them a little longer to get you photographs or do an authentic sign. And that's something that you guys can discuss to have the contract date starting maybe a week after they sign the agreement. You're not marketing, you're not putting that out there yet. But so you're still within the MLS rules and getting that listing onto the MLS within the required time frame. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask if you
Okay.
could show where the rules are.
Yeah, on that note, that's a very common question we get, and it's something that we do go over with new members. So they're aware of it, and if you've been here for a lot of years, you may not necessarily have it, be aware of where it is at your disposal. So I'll screen share this. Let me, there we are. Okay. So this is probably not what yours looks like, because you have some different widgets here and things that you use to your disposal. Up here on the left under the flex, the blue board, the agent dashboard, you either have that as your home or a home screen, whichever is your preference. So the information we would like to get out to you is, if you click this and hit the MLS, these are the resources you have. This is your message board. It has things like the the roundtable discussion we're having today, the legal opinion, information we want you to have here. To the right of that, in this links and support information, is some of the links that you have to assist you in your business. And then also right here is the MLS rules and regulations. And we're just going to click on that. And this has all of the rules and regulations that we go by, what we're going to refer you to if you have any questions or what it is that we're requiring of you.
And, you know, as far as the rules and regulations go, if you have any questions, please send an email to mls@glaronline.com, and we'll be either Christy or I will be more than happy to help you with that, with any questions that you might have. You know, one of the things that we're here for is we're here for the membership, and we want to make sure that we're helping you to do the best job that you can possibly do as well. All right, so one of the new things that we have here, especially with this COVID-19 thing or issue that we have going on, is the fact that we can't leave our house to do our jobs. So what Flex has done, and what we've done with Flex, is enabled a new function within the system that are virtual open houses. An open house is virtual open house is right now the only thing that you can put in the system as an open house. We've disabled the ability to put physical open houses in. You can use a live link for this, and I'll show you here in just a second where to put that in. Let me get the screen sharing thing going again. All right. So on a listing, you go in here and you go to any one of your listings, and I just put a couple of test ones in here real quick. And then under, oh, it's not going to let me do it there. Okay. Let me see if I can't find a.
And one of the main things while Ed's getting this up is that the virtual open house has to be a live event. It's not something that you and your sellers have pre-recorded and you put that in there. Flex is not going to send that information out. It has to be a live event. It has to be from one of the sites that you can do that. And Flex just put out, I want to say last week we covered what the different sites are. You have like 10 to 15 different avenues that you can do a live virtual open house there.
Right, and with those, I mean, you can use Zoom, you can do Meet.Google, you can use Teams, GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, Skype, WebEx, Join.me, Whereby, BlueJean, Zoho, and Meeting. That's a list of live event URLs that we were given from Flex that will work in this field. And I just grabbed a random listing here. If you go and edit your listing and go to media, and then you go down to scheduled marketing activities and open house, which I'm sure all of you are aware how to put in open houses. You'll add it here, and I'll delete it when I'm done, I promise. And then here you can see that the only thing that you have is virtual. And then the link that from one of the sites that we just told you about goes right in here. And then you start your schedule time. You know, make sure that your schedule time is where you're actually going to be scheduled for the open house, because you do have to physically be active in the meeting. You can't, you know, obviously don't try to put from 1 a.m. until 9 p.m. You know, unless you're planning on being at your screen that entire time, but I don't think so.
So, and I just saw one of the questions we've had is, yes, this requires the seller's participation. They are the ones that are there with the camera. They are the ones taking the video. Since as agents, you are not allowed to leave your home to do your job, you definitely have to have seller participation to do this. And you can test it out beforehand. You can do a test run with them of doing a Zoom or a Facebook Live, and just to get them comfortable with it so that they can show the different parameters of the house.
And just to throw this in there as well, from personal experience, last Wednesday, I actually did a virtual tour with my own house that I'm selling from where I moved from. And they are viable. I got 2 offers, and we have an accepted offer from that virtual tour. So these do work. They do work. It may take a little training with your seller, and going over things with them. And we had a really good webinar on this not too long ago, I believe, with Terry. But it's going to take a little bit of training to go over your seller, what they can and can't do. Make sure that they're basically doing what you would do if you were in that situation. Okay.
Yep, that recording is under the recorded events, and it's under the virtual tours. And what Ed was speaking about, there's fair housing laws that you have to abide by. It's not for the sellers to necessarily narrate during the tour, but it is a way for them to show the home to everyone. Let's see. The other thing while we're on it is MLS errors. And I know that no one appreciates getting an email stating there was an error. Anyone can report an error. It can be someone of the public, it can be another agent, it can be an appraiser. There's a vast majority of people that can report an error. We also audit the system, and sometimes it's us that notices something isn't done correctly. We just need a response most of the time, especially currently. We aren't fining for errors during the shelter in place. A lot of it is just for education purposes. But once the shelter in place is lifted, if there's still that error that's going on, you could be subject to a fine. So it's not something that we just want to educate you. We want to take this time to really make sure that the data is accurate, to make sure that we are doing the best thing that we can do for you, and make sure you're aware of what the regulations are and what is expected of you.
Right.
Even though we're not finding right now, we still need the error corrected. And that's something that we're happy to walk you through. We're happy if you don't know how to upload documents, we're glad to show you how. We're here to help you, and we would like you to utilize that.
A couple of things I just want to touch on really quickly. I believe I said I did a virtual tour. That was incorrect. I actually did a virtual showing. A little different. And as far as the virtual open houses go, I want to reiterate, you cannot use recorded items. They have to be a live link only. So you can't do recorded. Like Christy said, that's a virtual tour, not a virtual open house.
I was muted, sorry. The other thing is, not always when we get a report is it correct. Sometimes we just need clarification. There could be a discrepancy on the square footage or the room count. And sometimes it's just as easy as you telling us, no, this is what we got from the assessor, and we move on. Just like I said, communication is the key there. And most issues, we're willing to work with you. We want you to understand the process. We want you to be informed. We want you to have all the tools you have possible to do your job. And I can also state, Ed and I are kind of individual cases during this COVID where I am selling my home also, and had gotten an accepted offer, I want to say the day before the shelter in place happened. There haven't been any issues with the appraisal or anything in that matter. And I can say personally, as a seller, it's been a pretty seamless process for me. I haven't had to do much. It's still worked. It's still been relatively normal, I would have to say. There's more phone calls, but besides that, the process isn't taking any longer on my end. And I can just say that there are people still doing business, working with technology, finding ways to make it work. It's been a very user-friendly situation from my end.
All right, so we have a question here about once a listing is sold, is there a way to limit photos that are available to the general public? And if so, how? Yes, there is. So we can go into the broker load in our listing. And if you go into listing information and broker distribution, and then the distribution options here are realtor, you can uncheck these. If you uncheck these, this will no longer syndicate out to those three. And that'll take care of that. Now, there may be a case where the photos are still out there on Zillow or any of these sites. And if that's the case, you contact their support and they will remove those photos.
Yep, the buyer would just have to claim the home on those sites, and then they can request that those photos be removed. The photos are MLS once they're put into the system. That's not something that we can delete on our end. But like I said, Flex has come up with the solution that should be coming relatively quickly here. They've had to put it kind of a little bit on the back burner with all their COVID new formats, but it is going to be something that you can put that those are private and not available to see as part of the listing, but it's still there.
All right, so so we talked about coming soon earlier.
Hey, Ed,
And yes.
before you jump into coming soon, there is another question pertaining to photos. Will photos of sold homes also be available to IDX feeds?
If you mark those as private, they'll only be available to MLS users. I don't know if sold syndicates out to MLS.
So right
IDX?
now, sold photos go to IDX. They go through IDX and syndication. If you were to remove the syndication that Ed just showed you that doesn't remove IDX, IDX would be in that section above the syndication checkboxes. What Christy is alluding to is that we will be launching a new photo status, I guess is the best way to put it, in Flex that will be called private. And so you could have some photos that are public, meaning they go out to all the sites, and some that are private, which means that they would only be available in the MLS to MLS users. And then those private photos would not go out to IDX. They would go out if you have a VOW site, but I think we only have a few brokers that have VOW sites right now.
Thank you. Okay, if we're ready, we'll move on to the coming soon. So when you're one of the questions I get asked a lot is when you're putting a coming soon in, how to do it. If you don't put it in necessarily correctly, you'll end up not seeing the listing at all because it future dates it. So in your listing, when you're adding this, you go to main fields, and then your status here, when you typically open this up, it's just active. So then you have a listing date. Now that's going to be your contract date that's on your listing contract. But if you drop this down to coming soon, you now see a second box that populates, and this is the start showing date. Your listing date doesn't change. It is still the date that is on the contract date in your listing contract. However, the start showing date is the date that you can actively start showing the property. So, and this, if you see this, it has to be a minimum of 1 day after your listing date, but a maximum of 15 days. So you can push this out 2 weeks, and this is used to let the seller get the house ready to be sold. And that's it. That's really all you have to do. If you push this out to the date that they want to start showing, you won't see it. It'll just disappear.
And those dates are also located on the coming soon addendum that is required with a coming soon listing. So just another place that we that you have that information, and that addendum is located in transaction desk.
Now, one of the things that with this is adding this to a search or a subscription that's going out to your clients. And again, that's pretty simple. If you just hit quick search, and then here under the status, if you drop this down, you'll see where coming soon is. So you just add that to whatever their criteria is, and anytime a new coming soon comes up, it will email that out to your clients. If you already have these set up, searches set up for clients, you can just go into you can open that search up and edit the search and add that as well.
The other thing real quickly before we wrap up here is when you are doing the searches, we're finding many agents aren't using our reciprocal access. They aren't searching the other boards when they're looking for homes. Ed, if you want to screen share that again real quickly for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, it's easier than me doing it. So at the top of that, when you're doing a quick search, it says MLS of Greater Lansing MLS. So if you click that, you can just highlight all those boards, because there are listings in other boards in our area. And so that's a good way to make sure that you are definitely getting all the information that we have available, every listing that could possibly, oh, MLS, sorry, not board. So you're checking all those MLSs and not just GLAR. All right, and one last question here, and then I think we will wrap up. Can you uncheck the pictures of a previous listing now that has sold? My seller wants the pictures taken down for privacy reasons. Unfortunately, we cannot take the pictures out. Once you put them in MLS, they are in MLS. There's ways to take them out of the buyer can take them out of the syndication sites, but that's not something that we can remove. That's part of the MLS data, and that's why it's not for marketing, it's for cooperation. It's something that is necessary to be used for future process.
Now you can uncheck those on Zillow or the broker distribution for the syndication sites. And in order to do that, because it's a closed listing and you're unable to do that yourself, then you would have to just send an email into us and we can take care of that for you. You're welcome.
So I want to make sure, I just want to make sure that that's clear, that the photos cannot be deleted from MLS, but we can uncheck the syndication and stop sending them to the syndication sites. However, you need to make sure that if you want them removed from the syndication sites, that the owner contacts the syndication sites, because they may be pulling them from other data feeds.
Okay, and let's see, we had one about transaction desk. Ed, I'll let you take this one. It says, who do we ask on how transaction desk, when setting date for e-signing to bold, change the font on bold the date? The light blue currently doesn't show up for copying or scanning, or very faint. So I'm guessing just trying to change the color and the boldness on transaction desk.
Okay. If you'd like to send that, send an email in to mls@glaronline.com. I can look into that.
All right. And can you check them? I tried to put client on search in another MLS and it would not allow. This was 6 months ago. Has it changed? So I know that we had some issues with the data feed a while ago. I'm not sure about having a client search. I know that you can search in the different MLS. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to set up the parameters for that client. I would try it again in the subscription and see if that works. Like I said, there was an issue a while ago about the data feeds, but you should be able to do that.
All right, and so we had another question about if we can, I believe it meant uncheck the photos right, or the distribution right before closing to have those removed, and yes, you can do that. As long as you still have access to edit that listing, you can go in there and uncheck those and remove those from syndication. Again,
However, you can't delete the photos.
that's what I was just going to say. However, you cannot remove them from MLS.
I think we've answered everything.
I think we have. Anybody, is there any more questions that we can answer for anybody? Or more appropriately, any questions I can stumble over?
It looks like all the questions have been addressed. I want to thank Ed and Christy for their time and sharing their knowledge with us this morning. This is being recorded and will be distributed out to everybody later on, so keep an eye open for that. And again, thank you, and feel free to join us tomorrow for the walkthrough of the brand new Realist, and that is again at noon. And we also have our GMM this Thursday, virtual style, all about fair housing and some special tips for fair housing during this time, this interesting time that we are living in indeed. So again, thank you guys, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.